How many times have you sat down to add a photo to your scrapbook or junk journal only to find that it does not fit in because it's outdated and the colors are really contrasting? In this video, I'm going to show you my 15 tips for adding an outdated photo to a modern scrapbook or journal. Hi, I'm Gina and welcome to stellarjstudios. I'm going to use my ephemera from my March Good Junk Mail. This is a letter that I send out once a month that has a bunch of thrifted and upcycled ephemera, a sticker, a craft, a poem, and I'm going to incorporate that photo with all of these goodies. And I'm like super excited because I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that photo had been sitting on my desk for the longest time, and I always steered away from it because it was so outdated. Yes, there is orange shag carpet. So I'm going to jump right into my Good Junk Mail journal. This is one where I exclusively use my Good Junk Mail. And the first thing I need to do is I need to just accept the fact that this photo is outdated and it is going to be very contrasting. So I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to embrace the 1990s and I'm going to see if I can revive that style from the 90s, but in a more modern way. So my first tip is embrace the fact that this is an old photo, and I'm going to kind of play off of it. I'm going to use the sewing card that was in my March Good Junk Mail, and I'm actually going to just play around with it for a few minutes because I still don't know how I'm going to get started on this spread. So I'm cutting out a window and kind of showing you the back of how I sewed it. A little tip that I used when I was sewing the yarn into the card was that I took the end and kind of wrapped it in some washi tape, which made it easier to go through the holes. So I'm really just fumbling around, which I do a lot whenever I journal. And then I realized, all right, I got to get started by, I gotta make a calming and a connecting background. So I chose this piece of vintage wrapping paper, and I chose it because of the yellow. But the more I look at it, the more I'm like, okay, this is straight out of the 90s. Look at that. There's that country blue, there's the rose, dusty rose, I think is what it was, and then there's the mauve. And it seems to work because it's muted. I'm going to use the same techniques and the same elements, the same things that I normally do whenever I'm working in my journal, because that's the now, that's the modern part. I'm just going to do it with maybe some not so modern ephemera and pictures. The next tip I have is to use specific pieces from that specific time period. So I'm going to use a little invitation that was from the 1990s. This actually was in my last batch of journals. It was in one of the signatures, and I had an extra, so I thought it would be perfect to add. Plus, it was also an invitation, which this was a little party, so it worked well. So using things from that time period, like that wrapping paper, I even think that little book that book page, it was from a Pinocchio book. I even think that book was published in 1990. So yeah, there's my little invitation. And I'm going to actually tear it apart and do a bunch of weird things with it. Of course, cutting out the clutter of the photo. Now, I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm not going to cut out all the clutter. I want to keep some of it. So I actually just cut my photo into two pieces, and I cut the white wall that was in the background. I cut that part out. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my photo is not the focal point. I am going to use the actual bingo card as more of my focal point. And in the end, you'll see I end up with like two focal points, but but I don't want everybody's eye to go, or my eye to go directly to that that photo that is so, out there and contrasting. So I'm going to use something else as the focal point. Now you'll see here I'm cutting out that white. To me, the white wall was what was drawing my attention from everything. I'm gonna deal with that orange shag carpet. I know most people would be like, save the white wall, get rid of the carpet, but the carpet tells part of the story. So I decide that I'm gonna disguise this this photo. I'm gonna disguise it in, and you could do that like put it in a pocket, or put it in a flap or a fold out or something. I'm actually going to make a little interactive piece, and I'm going to use the letter from my good junk mail, and I'm cutting it up. Yes, you saw that. I'm cutting it up. So I'm going to use that as my little interactive piece. Now, what I need to do is I've got to start to marry these colors, and I'm going to add just some watercolor paint to kind of tone down the letter that I'm using for that photo. I'm going to that white against the dark photo is a little too much contrast. So I'm just going to take some paint, and I'm going to kind of do a little wash and make it all kind of come together. It's interesting because that paint that I picked was like a greeny blue, which again is these colors from this time period, and as I'm looking at it, I can see that color kind of matches the bunny and the goose that's in that wrapping paper. I'm then going to pull out some colors that I had on my bingo card. So I used pink paint on my bingo card when I made that little house. So now I'm going to take from the modern, I'm going to pull it over into the outdated. And I just I just painted some little circles there, some little painty splotches. And it kind of pulls it together, and then there's a little bit of pink at the top. So it kind of makes your eye go through the whole spread here. But I decide that the words in the background from that letter, the detail of them, it's pretty busy. So I'm going to remove that. It's more of a pattern. It's not so much the words, it's just the pattern that they make. I'm going to remove that by just toning it down a little bit with a wash of white paint. So it just kind of tones all that back down and still allows that pink and a little bit of that blue and green to show through. I'm also going to clean up any stray paint that I get on that photo. I'm going to kind of clean it up because I don't want this to become too messy and too busy. I then take that interactive piece there, and I'm going to back it with that wrapping paper because it's quite flimsy, and it just kind of again ties everything together if I use that same paper. And I had quite a lot of that paper, so I might as well use it up. And then I'm going to add it into my journal as like a little interactive flap. And yeah, I'm good with that because now I've got that bingo card on the right, which is what you're immediately drawn to, and then I've got the photo over there on the left. Now here comes this invitation again, and I think I'm going to I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it into a pocket. And so I put my glue on 3 sides. It's going to be a really tight pocket, but that's okay. And I'm going to tuck a little journal spot in there. So check out this tape. So this washi tape that I had works perfectly. Now, here's why it works. Because it's a modern version of that country blue. So that country blue that was hot in the 90s, it's in this photo. It's in the wrapping paper. But when I pull in that modern washi tape, it actually takes that country blue and it makes it more modern. As I flip around, you can kind of see I used a few other pieces of washi tape. So the one, that zigzag that I'm using right now, remember I said I was going to pull in the carpet, that orange shag carpet? So that had a touch of orange in it. And it's just enough that it will pull that orange from the carpet, but yet again bringing it back into the modern time, because it's this element that we use now when we're journaling. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the nostalgia. So a lot of you might be like, why did you keep the TV in the cabinet and all that good stuff? Well, here's the thing. That is actually part of the story. The story of this, and I didn't know it at the time. It evolved as I was making this journal spread. But the story that came forward was about change and how things have changed since then, in the 30 plus years since this little pizza party. And back then, we had one little TV, and well, actually, I didn't even think it was that little. I thought it was pretty big, but we had one TV, and it was in this one TV cabinet that we were so proud of, because that was like one of our very first pieces of furniture we bought. And one of my daughter's little baby dolls was on the floor, and on top of the TV cabinet, we had pictures of her, and like every wall in the house was covered with pictures of her, and the colors at that time, and her little Barney slippers that she had on. All of that stuff helps tell the story. And so I don't want to get rid of that. It's not about the pizza party. It was about the time and the changes that have happened since then. The photo is done, and now we're going to take it and we're going to spread it throughout the rest of this journal page. And I'm going to use, again, orange. It just so happened that the paper I had in this good junk mail was orange, and I thought, let's use it as some background. So I cut it apart. I'm going to use it as a background piece, and again, pulling that orange over to that side. I had a sticker in this good junk mail, and on the sticker, there was a little sentiment that I had written. The sticker, by the way, is a piece of my artwork that I have, my original artwork that I had turned into a sticker, and I had it professionally printed. And I'm pretty proud of it. I thought it turned out really, really well. But the sentiment was about change. And that's when it hit me. When I used that sticker, that's when it hit me that this is not about a pizza party. This is not about my good junk mail for March. This is about change. And what better time, I mean, right now in 2025, what better time to talk about change than right now? Like, I can't think of a better time, because there's so much change going on, and it's scary, and it's hard. It's hard to digest all the change. It's something that I carry with me, and kind of like that orange shag carpet, it's heavy. It is a very heavy time right now. And this spread has, when I look at this, like right now, even as I'm doing the voiceover, when I look at this, I don't see heavy. I see light. I see bright. I see fun. I see opportunity. And that's definitely not how I feel right now. And I know I'm getting really deep, but this was kind of an epiphany as I was creating this journal spread. This was definitely an epiphany. And so when it comes time for me to do my actual journaling, I had this revelation, and I thought, okay, let's use that as my journaling, reflect on the changes. And wow, it like kind of all came together. And I got chills right now as I'm going and doing this voiceover, because this does not happen very often when I'm journaling, that I have this creative epiphany and these deep thoughts and how it all comes together. But this is just one of those times where it did, and that's amazing. My next thing is I got a pack of thrifted like mailbox letters, and of course, you know, there's ones that are missing because that's why they're thrifted. Somebody used what they needed and they got rid of the rest. And I thought, let's add that. One, because I remember our mailbox at this house that we lived at in 1994, and this kind of reminds me of it. But the other part is throw in something unexpected. If I throw in something unexpected to this spread, I've now deflected from that photo that may seem a little out of place because it's outdated. So now it's like, oh, it's unexpected because, well, the photo is outdated and she used mailbox letters and she's got these crazy colors, but yet they're calming, and it just kind of adds to the whole piece rather than focusing on just this one part that is very outdated and has orange shag carpet. Which leads me to my 15th and final tip. Think of this as the entire piece or a whole piece rather than each individual part. Once I did that and I shifted my mindset from the small details to the bigger piece, I was able to see that photo didn't have to overtake this whole story, and it didn't have to set the tone as a dark, heavy, outdated journal spread. It was just one small part in this larger story. And the story is being told through the colors, the design, the decor, the outdated photo, and the little elements that were pulled from that time period. And I love this. This turned out to be one of the best spreads I've ever done. And to be able to capture it on camera was even better. Doing this made me think that I could go back into one of my scrapbooks and find a spread where there were some really chaotic photos, and I'm sure there are a lot of them, especially spreads that I did like around the holidays and stuff when there's busy and lots of contrasting colors, and apply these 15 tips and see if I could modernize it or maybe make it more calming and more peaceful. If that's something you'd be interested in watching, leave me a comment and I would definitely like to do a video of that. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know. We'll have to try. I'm sure I can make it work. All right, my friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you are healthy. I hope you are happy. If you are interested in good junk mail, there is still slots available for April and for May. Just check out my Etsy shop. I hope you do something creative today. And until next time, be safe. Bye.